So yeah, I think we're going to have people join in over the next few minutes. So I'm going to be in charge of the lobby, and I'll pass you over to Stu, who's got some visuals to go through with us as well. And there's a Q&A box as well. So any questions, pop them in there or raise a hand. But I'll hand over to you now, Stuart.
Fantastic, thanks, Sarah. So first and foremost, welcome everyone. I will apologise in advance, I've got a really bad sore throat, so I hope you can all hear me okay. So a little welcome from me. I'm Stuart Baxter, Power Platform Solution Architect at Curve Digital, Microsoft Certified Trainer, author of the What's New in Power Platform blog, and more recently Event Coordinator at the Scottish Power Platform User Group. We're here today to talk through some of the new features that are coming up for Dynamics and Power Platform. More a focus today on Power Platform in general as opposed to the Dynamics side of things. And I'm going to talk you through some features that I'm excited about and open up to the floor and allow people to talk about what they're excited about. So in terms of what we've got, these are the top features I'm looking forward to. So we've had just in the last couple of days Fluent UI for model-driven apps through the new look and feel. That's been introduced and it is available in public preview at the moment. And we're very soon getting Canvas apps as well. We will have a look at the Microsoft Experience Planner in a little bit, and we'll go into a bit more detail on these soon. One thing to watch out for on there, on all of these, it does state that the public preview starts on the 1st of the month. That's quite often not the case, but we'll touch on that a bit more later. Next thing I'm most excited about is collaborative app building. So we've all seen this issue where two people try to log into the same Canvas app and you get that message that says, Nigel Hamilton, for example, is working on this Canvas app. Please ask them to close it and try again later. That's going very imminently. So we'll soon be able to collaborate on them, and that's really useful for people working together. We then have the test engine. So those who use Canvas apps will be familiar with the test engine where you can write automated UI tests. They're bringing that to custom pages and model-driven apps in June this year as well on public preview. Next, and possibly most exciting one for me, is the ability to associate activities with other activities. We've all had a Teams call through Dynamics. We've got some actions on the back of it. It would be really great if you could associate some tasks with that meeting. Assign those tasks to different people, track them through Dynamics. Going forward, you will be able to. That's coming in public preview this month. And the last big feature I want to talk about before we open up to the floor a little bit is using natural language to create flows. This has been available in public preview in America for a good couple of months now. It's looking to be GA middle of this year. So really, really exciting feature where you'll be able to just ask in natural language, can I have a flow to create an activity every time an email is sent to me, for example. And within a couple of quick shift flows, ready to go and created for you, allowing you to add any extra steps onto it. So really big feature, really, really exciting, and using a lot of the chat GPT underpins as well that Microsoft have brought in. So that's what I'm most excited about. We're going to go into a bit more detail on some of the features in a little bit. But I just want to take the opportunity to open up to the floor and ask people what you're excited about. Any volunteers to share what you're thinking you're really looking forward to?
For me, it's the collaborative side thing that you pointed out there, having two people working it out, because I quite regularly work with people and we have to say, like, be like, okay, I need to add this into the app, and they'll be like, okay, I'll come out, and a lot of like faffing around. So having the collab like build, that's going to make things amazingly easier. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. We've had it in model-driven apps for a little bit as well, and it really, really, really speeds up working together. Like you say, we've all seen that thing where you need to add something to an app, you then contact your colleague and say, can you come out then, or you can go back in now. No one's got time for that at the end of the day. soon as you get used to it in model-driven apps as well, it's such a nice little feature. Being able to do that in Canvas apps it's going to make those really difficult days as well when you call in the big guns and contact your resident Power Platform expert and say, look, how do I do this? Being able to have them in with you and live updates on screen is going to really, really speed things up there. Anyone else?
The natural language for flow is going to be good, but that's going to put my blog out of my business.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that one, the natural language one. I've had a play with the natural language expressions, and at this point it's limited use. It's really, really exciting. I can see it growing, and I've even seen it growing over the last couple of months, but I feel like it's used for inspiration as opposed to the eventual outcome. So although it's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting and a lot of the common stuff, I feel like we as solution architects and Power Platform consultants and so on are still going to have a hand in shaping out the flow after that. So it's almost going to create a boilerplate flow that we then make something special, I think. So it's exciting, but I don't think it's quite counting people's jobs yet, which I'm glad to say, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in Power Pages and the newcomers that we have in Power Pages, so that we could probably make best use of it now that it is all turning into Power Pages. Yeah,
there's a lot of really nice things coming with Power Pages, particularly in licensing and things. I know there's been some recent updates on the licensing model it's made it a bit more transparent. The apprehension I've always had with Power Pages is the question the customer always asks is, how much is this going to cost? And for a long time, that was a really, really difficult question to answer. When you compare it to, say, Dynamics 365 sales, you know if you've got 100 users, it's going to be £75 something or the equivalent currency per user times 100. That's your monthly cost. With Power Pages, it almost felt counterproductive for a while, where they were saying the more you use it, the more it'll cost you.
Yeah.
So actually, the more successful you are, the more it costs. And the whole point in your Power Page is to drive away from people having to have those conversations and kind of self-serve. So it's an interesting one, Power Pages, but I really like the direction they're going. When we move on to the next part of the session here, we'll be going into some of the Power Pages features as well there. So really nice to see it becoming a useful product. Anything anyone else is excited about?
I'm really excited about the One Dynamic, One Platform initiative. I think that would be really helpful between the Dynamic and the Power Platform collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a bit of a hot topic recently, particularly in the F&O world recently, where there's rumours that within the next year or so they're looking to effectively have everything under Power Platform. And you've maybe noticed more recently as well that they're talking around more first-party apps that aren't Dynamics, kind of tying into that one platform as well there. So it's exciting times. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming up. We'll have another part of this in just a little bit, but let's move on for now. And I'm just going to share something different. So we've got the Microsoft Release Planner here. We're probably all familiar with the huge PDF documents that we get sent out every few months. For those who haven't seen this before, it's a really nice tool for looking at what's coming up in the release wave. It shows you the different statuses that things are in and so on. So for those who haven't seen this, I'll step through it super quickly. You've got your different products on the left here. Dynamics Power Platform. You can dive further in and you can look at specifically Power Apps, for example. Menu along the top here, what's planned, so that's anything that's in the current release plan. What's coming soon, anything that's coming up next month. Try it now, what's been released. You can filter over here with some really basic stuff, what's new in the last 7 days, different statuses, etc. You can group in different ways. So you can group by months, which is my preferred way. or you can group by different categories, so data and AI, personalization, etc. My favourite part on this one here is my release plans. So if there's things you're particularly interested in, some of these will seem familiar to you based on what we just went through, you can effectively favourite these and even share your release plan with colleagues as well. So if you wanted to have conversations like what we're having today with your internal teams, you could create your own release plan and with your own exciting features on there and share them over and go, this would be great for this project or that project. These are things we want to watch out for. So there's a few that we talked through in my top 5 earlier on. We spoke about associating activities with other activities. It's very much what it says on the tin. There's nothing too exciting to dive into on that. We've got an improved virtual tables experience that came into public preview on the 5th of January. Has anyone had a chance to have a proper play about with this yet?
No.
No? And
Nope.
it's really simple. So you basically have a guided wizard, and it's no more complicated than setting up a connection reference. At the moment in the public preview, you can only connect to SQL or SharePoint, so it's limited functionality in public preview as it usually is, but in the long run, you're going to be able to create any of the virtual tables that we're used to doing through a guided wizard with the new UI and so on. So it's really, really exciting development for these kind of things. Even click on here, learn more, and it gives you some limited information around what the feature is. And over here we get the public preview is 5th of Jan. It's going GA on the March 2023. Another one, this was an interesting one that's came into this release wave. I'm a little bit confused as to what this is. So it mentions real-time notifications in Power Apps. Now, I thought we already had that, and that was the toast notifications that come in the top right. There's a bit of ambiguity around this feature, but I'm hoping that this may be something similar to the push notifications that we get in Canvas apps, but directly within the app as opposed to like a push notification. Has anyone had the chance to dive deeper into this and get a better understanding of this than what I've got so far?
I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but sometimes when flows fail, you can get notifications, but that's usually via an email. You get notification off of that, but I mean, it could be that. not particularly too sure.
Yeah, it's a bit of an ambiguous one, this. It is coming to public preview this month. You will notice, just I mentioned this earlier on, it always says February 1st there. Ignore the 1. So if it says February 1st, that generally means during the month of February. If we look at this specific one here, public preview Feb, whereas this one here, public preview Jan the 5th. So it looks like Microsoft might have a little bit of tidying up to do on these ones, where if it's any point in the month of Feb, it always displays as Feb 1st, but that's not necessarily accurate. So when you're exploring this, do keep that in mind. This one here is a really nice little feature, actually. So we're probably all familiar with the ability to check access on
yeah, I've just got this in the background. There might be some interesting bits that I'm not contributing. I'll just.
So we've got someone talking who's not on mute there. I think he's quiet. No worries. So we've had for a while the ability to check at table level what security role has access to that table and which layer is giving them that. So say, for example, someone has sales user and sales manager, it would show you that both are giving access to this record and your read, write, delete permissions, etc. But extending this to user level, so as opposed to you having to go in and search for Nigel Harrington or Sarah Jones, you'll have a list of all of the users who have access to the record. So that includes through security roles and through sharing. whether that's shared with the individual or the team. So really quick way, if you're looking at a record to see who's got access to this, either this person here's moved on from the department, I don't want them having access, revoke, or this person here should and it's missing, that's why they're getting a permissions error when I send them a link, for example. Really useful little feature there. Let's be honest, it's not going to revolutionise the way we work. We all know when someone gets a message that says they don't have permissions, you share the record with them, or you give them the right security role. It's not rocket science, it's just going to speed up our day a little bit. When we move on to Power Apps in general, as I mentioned earlier on, building Canvas apps with new and refreshed controls. This is your Fluent UI stuff. That came into public preview February, should be coming any day now, so keep an eye out for an announcement really soon on that. Model-driven apps, the same thing in model-driven apps, but it's live and ready to go. So just really quick screenshot here. This is the old style on the left and the new style on the right. It looks very similar, just more in line with Fluent UI. It's hard to make out from the screenshot on the right there, but there's actually a little off-white background as well. So it makes your section stand out a wee bit more and so on. One thing to be aware of with this, if you do enable the preview, it will break any custom themes that you have. So for example, if you've made your dark blue bar that says Dynamics 365 Sales Hub, if you've made that purple in line with Curve Digital branding, it's going to break that. It's just going to go back to the same colour as it was before. Same applies to your business process flows and your other bits and pieces as well. I suspect they will fix that as part of the preview, but it's something to be aware of. Obviously, with all the preview features, they're not intended for production use and put in front of the customer just yet, so it's not the end of the world if your dev environment doesn't look quite perfect, but do be aware of that. We've got our efficient maker experiences. This is the one we spoke about before. I'm co-authoring with other makers in the modern app designer, so this is your model-driven app collaboration stuff. They don't have a screenshot on here, which is a little bit annoying. Have people had a chance to play with the co-authoring and model-driven apps so far? No?
No, I haven't. No.
It's super simple stuff. If you bear with me 2 seconds, I'll show you roughly how it looks. Just open up my development environment, which will take me just a moment. So there's a couple of different things come into it. So in this environment, you've got your people who've got access to it with your little picture here. What you would also have is on the individual table, if you went into the app designer, it would show you similarly just a little circle with a person's picture in it to show they are working on this here. What's really great is any updates that they make will be reflected on your screen instantly and vice versa. So you don't have 2 people working on it at once and then one saves and it tries to, similar to Power Automate where it says saving this will overwrite other people's changes. It doesn't do that. It live updates like you see in for example, Microsoft Word or Excel when you're collaborating in the online version. So really nice little feature there. Coming to Canvas apps really soon as well. And that's our Canvas apps version of the above as well. Power Automate, key parts I'm looking forward to. These are both coming, well, one's just come out, the other one's coming any day now. I actually noticed this by mistake. So previously, if you save a solution-aware cloud flow using the Save As button, the new copy is not solution-aware. You then need to add it into a solution and make a few tweaks to change the connections to connection references, all that hassle. That's gone now. So when you Save As it becomes a solution-aware cloud flow. One thing to watch out for though is it doesn't automatically add it to a solution. So earlier on, for example, I had a flow I wanted to copy. Previously, I'd be used to seeing that in the outside of Dataverse tab when we tried to add it to a solution. Couldn't find it, was scratching my head for ages. And then just by chance noticed it inside Dataverse tab and it's in there now, and I was just drop it straight in and start using it. So really useful little feature there. It's another one of these ones that's not going to revolutionize our day, but it's just going to make our lives that little bit easier. The one above here, on the other hand, this is going to be useful in quite a lot of ways. So we've probably all seen at some point when you open up an environment, it mentions this environment has X number of environment variables to be updated. We're going to get something similar to that for connection references that don't have a connection. When you drop something into an environment, if you haven't created a connection, we're all familiar with, you put it in, there's no connection there. It takes a bit of a huff. You realise when that connection doesn't run later on, or there's something wrong, scratch your head for ages trying to figure it out, and then eventually open it up and you get that pop-up saying you need to do your connection references. All of those steps are gone now. When you open up the modern app designer, you'll have, as we said, a yellow bar at the top that says these connection references are broken, do you want to fix them? Really speeding up our day and speeding up the time it takes to debug common issues as well there. All of these features that we've gone through are available now or within the next 20 days, so by the end of this month. Got the improved virtual table experience coming in March, so this is just an extension of what we spoke about before. And we've got a few really nice ones coming up soon as well. So in the Dataverse space, we've all had that situation where you're not a global admin, you're working on a scenario where you've got approved mailboxes, you spend half a day trying to reach the global admin because they're the busiest person in the world. They can now delegate that. Only a user with global administrator or exchange administrator can assign this security role, but there is a new security role in there. I believe it's called mailbox administrator or something along those lines.
Yeah, I've
they
been
can
following
assign that, and people can go ahead and assign themselves. It's really useful.
I've been following this since October. They have pushed it to March now, as in April 2023, but I've been following this in October. I wanted to go live with this one.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea, isn't it? Was this announced in public preview or released in any kind of preview at all?
It was supposed to be released in October 2022. That's where I had planned it for, but it was then pushed to December, and now it's pushed to April 2023.
Yeah, so it's one to watch out for. There's a few features I've seen over the years that have been like this as well, where they don't quite manage to squeeze it into the release wave and kind of roll it over into the next one. So I'm quite hopeful on this one that we'll get it this wave, but just on the back of what you're saying there, there's always a chance that it won't be April if it's been pushed 3 or 4 times. I do wonder how they're going to implement that you can only assign that security role if you have a security role. So that's something new. Previously, if you had system administrator security role, you can do what you like. From what I understand with this, if you don't have system administrator or another role that allows you to assign roles and global admin or exchange admin, you should experience an error as a regular system admin without global admin or exchange admin. I don't know quite how they're going to implement that. I suspect that's maybe why it's been pushed. But yeah, it's one to watch. It may well be moved again. Virtual table experience here. This is showing in planned because it's just over a month until it comes. So we looked at that a minute ago. This one here is an interesting one. They've released a feature where you can quickly and easily access a Dataverse environment. And they talk about personal environments without any additional license cost. Now, I don't quite understand what this is. So I've got these environments here with the type environment type developer. I'm not sure what the difference between a developer environment and what they're calling a personal environment is. I think they might well be the same thing and it's just a terminology thing. But I'm a little bit confused around the public preview date here is April. I've got these. I've had these since last month. They were in the January release as well. So, is it a fourth type?
Is there anything in the release notes about how many environments you're allowed, how many personal environments you're allowed?
It's not clear. I had to dig into it to have a wee look, and it's literally a couple of sentences in there. So I have a feeling this might be a fourth environment type, but I don't quite understand the difference between this and a developer environment, or if they are indeed the same thing. So I'll be following this one over the next couple of months to see what's going on, but unfortunately there's no early access on this, so it's going to be April before we get any more steer on this. But it seems very much like a developer environment to me, but I'm not sure what they mean here. I do notice as well they say without any additional license cost. Now, as we know, the developer environments, there is zero license cost, so it's not additional license cost, it's no license cost at all. So I wonder if this is maybe something that sits between a default environment and a sandbox. But let's follow this over the next couple of months and see what we reckon here. We will have another one of these events probably about May time, shortly after the Wave 1 release, to start looking at these kind of things anyway. So definitely a topic for next time.
From my personal experience, a personal environment can only have one user.
That would make sense, actually, yeah. So developer environment, in theory, you could, so I know for a fact you can share access to developer environments, so maybe personal's like a developer environment, but only one person can access it.
Yeah, that's it.
I can see the benefit in that, you know. So it'd be a good place to host, like, for example, I've got a Power Automate flow that if I get a Teams message from one of about 5 people while I'm on Do Not Disturb, it will send me an email with the content of the Teams message. Now that only runs on my mailbox. It's my flow for me to run it. I don't want that in a default environment. I don't want other people using it. That's the sort of stuff that would fit into a personal environment better than my developer environment, I suppose. I wonder what they mean by any additional license cost. That word standing out there. It's different terminology from the user in the developer environment. On a developer environment, they basically say with no license cost. I wonder if you need to have like a per user license or something like that.
Do you think it's to help them move the sort of noise out of the default environment? So where they say additional license cost, it means you use it in the work environment, but instead of the default, to kind of keep all that clutter away from that default space?
Kind of hope so. It sounds like that it would be a sensible direction to go in. Like we've all seen default environments that are just a mess.
Yeah.
People have all sorts of little personal pet projects in there that are just for them. Yeah, I'm hoping that's what this is. I definitely want to revisit this in the next session in May when we've got the public preview and have a look at what's involved here. An interesting one. Spoken about this a good few times, so let's not cover all ground again on here. Efficient maker experiences is a new headline that they've been kind of using over the next wee while as well. There's a few that we've covered in here already. The automated UI test for custom pages and model-driven apps we touched on briefly. This one's a really exciting one for me. So reusing PowerFX formulas with user-defined functions. So we recently got the app formulas set up where you can have reusable formulas and things without the need to put it in the app on start. This looks like something that you can reuse over and over again, so kind of an extension of that. Myself and my colleague Nigel, who's on the call as well, had a look at the app on formula stuff, and it's useful, but it's not quite there. So if this is the next iteration of that, and it's taken it again from a nice little novelty to something useful, then I'm really looking forward to this one. It's down for public preview in June. Disappointingly, there's no early access on this one. No GA date on it as well, which is a bit of a concern for me. Because theoretically, we get this in June in public preview. It's amazing. We all really love it. Can't use it until it hits GA in a production environment. But it's one to keep an eye on as well there. This one here I'm really looking forward to. So responsive design's the kind of the buzzword of the day. Anytime any of us are building apps these days, we all know that one person's got a 50-inch monitor in their home office, another person's got a horizontal monitor, a vertical monitor, a big laptop, a small laptop, even people using Surfaces. Responsive apps are so much more important these days than they were a couple of years ago. Being able to use a drag and drop layout for your responsive containers is going to be much, much easier, I think. So really looking forward to this one, but it is quite a while off. That's coming in July. General availability for September, so by the end of the release wave, I would see. So quite a while away, but really exciting feature. Power Automate, we've spoken about natural language to create flows. All really good stuff. Another one that stood out to me was sequential approvals. So this is something you've been able to implement before with quite complex flows and a lot of effort. They're making this much simpler. So the kind of use cases I've seen with this one here, let's say, for example, you've got an expenses process. If your expense is less than 100 quid, your manager can approve it. If it's more than 100 quid, finance have got to approve it, just for the sake of argument. This would allow you to do that in one request effectively. So as opposed to you having, if they say yes, then go here, it's all set up and good to go really quickly. So really useful for quite a few use cases. I'm really looking forward to this one. No public preview, which is surprising, but this does go GA in May, so not too far around the corner. And this last one here, earlier on, someone mentioned how excited they are about the stuff coming with Power Pages. This one here stood out as something that's been missing for quite a while. So Power Pages as a trigger. So when Power Pages calls a flow similar to your Power Apps v2, up until now, we've shied away from using Power Pages triggering flows in the past. Quite often with big customers, we don't want to be using the HTTP request trigger, because that obviously comes with a risk. If someone gets access to that URL, they can, for example, be doing stuff within the driving theory test system. It's not secure enough, it's not safe enough. Whereas this new trigger here, it can only be called from the Power Pages site. There's no front-facing URL that someone can use to attack the service. So it's not a massive change. A lot of people have been doing similar with the HTTP requests and the various ways of securing them. This just makes that so much easier. And it brings Power Pages more in line with the rest of the Power Platform as well here. We're all familiar with the Power Apps v2 trigger, where at any point you can just trigger it from another app, basically. So really, really excited about this one. Down for public preview in April. No general availability yet though. So from what I'm seeing so far, that general availability is probably going to be the later part of this year. It seems a bit up and down at the moment. You've probably noticed from most of these features, not many of them are early access. That's the one thing I've been disappointed with this release. Going back to a couple of years ago with early access, you'd get 25 to 40% of the features in the release available in early access. You'd be able to go in round about now, switch it on in your dev environment, make sure that none of the changes are going to break your code. The challenge we've got now is early access. I think there's about 12 features. It makes it very, very difficult with large enterprise systems supporting complex business processes to be able to be confident that on 1st of April your service isn't going to go down because of some sort of issue caused by the release. I'd be interested to open up to the floor and see if anyone has any ideas on how best to tackle that particular challenge. So what approaches have you guys been taking so far in terms of preparing for the upcoming release wave? now that it's split over a number of months as opposed to big bang in April. Any suggestions from anyone?
What I've been doing with my client is I've created a ring-fenced environment and called it like a pre-prod clone, and I've filtered my releases. So I use the pipelines from UAT now and push into our standard UAT and into this pre-prod clone, and I just make sure that it works and it gives everyone an idea of what's coming, and it allows us to see the features as well as keep our normal UAT non-preview edition as clean as possible.
So with them releasing things in smaller batches as opposed to a big bang in April, how would you tackle that going forward? So I'm thinking, for example, this use flows with Power Pages site. There's no early access on this at all. At the start of April, how would you? It's probably not the best feature because that's not going to break anything. It's a brand new feature, but something like that that's coming on the 1st of April. How do you propose to tackle that?
Hope for the best.
I figured you might say that. I'm doing the same at the moment, if I'm honest. We do obviously have regression packs and things like that that we're running every so often anyway as part of our regular development cycles. But I'll be honest, I'm drawing a blank on the most effective way of handling this going forward with these monthly releases.
I think it's a very good point, Stuart, and I have to be careful what I say because I've just noticed that a couple of our clients are on this call, and that's fine because we're transparent. But I think it's really difficult, isn't it? Because the big bang approach of every April, every October, you can plan for it, you can enable it, you can do the early release and you can test it. But I think we also have to listen to what Microsoft say when they sort of announced this a couple of years ago, which is they sort of promised that none of this will break any functionality. And I know we can't always sort of take that verbatim, but you know, there is an element of trust that you know, if that's what Microsoft are striving to do, that you've got to try and trust quite a lot of that, in that, you know, they're going to launch it and it's not going to break it. But I think you know, I don't know if most of the people on this call are from sort of partners or end users, but I don't think there's anyone's model, you know, as partners, I don't think anyone's model is going to have something that can cater for this, because the cost of managing the full rollout of every single one of those features to all of their end customers, it just isn't feasible, if that makes any sense.
One thing
Is
I
it,
do
just
like,
to ask,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, is it this covered by the Canary instance, where when you're in the scale group, you get these changes 2 weeks before they go to your live environments?
I believe they are, yeah, they do tend to release these to lower environments before production environments. Another thing I've noticed that's really useful, it's been in Canvas apps for a while, but they've been using it more and more in model-driven apps, is these feature toggles. There's only one active at the moment, but there's try new look and feel preview. This allows us as partners and as app builders to go in while it's in preview, toggle it on within a development environment, or even the isolated UAT environment that someone mentioned earlier on, toggle it on, verify that it works and it doesn't break things, and potentially just toggle it back off while you work on the bug fix. There's more and more of that recently. I feel like we're getting more public previews and less early access. And this is all great during a development lifecycle and an ongoing project, but from a support model point of view, where you've completed the project with the client, you're giving them ongoing support, it's going to make this very expensive for customers who may potentially have to come back to partners once a month and say, look, there's new stuff coming this month. Can we analyze if that's going to affect us? So it's something we all need to be quite careful of in terms of keeping an eye on these upcoming public previews. But I've been noticing as well the public previews are lasting a lot longer than they were before. Like in the past, maybe this time last year, they were like a month. Some of them are now like 3, 4, 5, 6 months, even a year. So like formula columns, for example, have been in public preview since release wave 2 2021.
I think, Stuart, one of the primary questions that Microsoft need to answer here is what these public previews are doing to their one version rollout.
Yeah, that worries me as well. I think there needs to be a bit more transparency on when as well. So we're all familiar with the current release plan. If we look at we've all seen at the bottom of this, it's got your release wave overview. Hoping this is the right page. Yeah. So on here, you've got this kind of layout here. It's going out on this date here. So, for example, if we picked on this feature here, at the moment it's saying public preview April 1st. Now, I know from experience, if I go in on April 1st, this isn't going to be there. It's never April 1st. It's in some regions it's this date, some regions it's that date, and so on. And it's making it very, very difficult for us and for our customers to prepare and say, okay, I know that if we come in, for example, we are UK based, which I believe is in this part here somewhere. It's not clear on here, but I believe UK falls into this. We know if we come in on Monday the 3rd, there's a problem.
I think it should fall in Europe, isn't it? It should fall in Europe.
It says Great Britain in the second one. Great Britain.
Second one. Yeah. So if we
also
come
now
in
they have provided their
Monday
own.
the 10th, and something weird is going on, our first course of action is to have a look at the release wave notes and go, oh, yeah, it's that. Whereas with these public preview and general availability ones, without knowing at least a window of a weekend, this weekend we probably want to be careful. So, for example, we've got a change freeze on the current project I'm on at the moment that runs from 1 week before the 7th of April. So anything that goes wrong from the 7th to a few days after the 9th, we know that it's a direct result of the wave update. So when we raise a ticket to Microsoft, we can clearly rule that out right away and say, look, this isn't something we've done in the last couple of days. It is a true Microsoft bug. What do we do to fix it?
It's essentially switched things from a proactive response to a reactive response, hasn't it?
It does, yeah.
Not all wave updates will definitely be breaking the system, right? And the way it works is it's a train, right? This train moves from one region to another. And if in that region, if there are major defects that are raised by the customers, then the train shifts its cycle and the dates. So we just have to keep a track of these dates and the dates keep on changing as long as the defects are raised and solved within that region.
So that all makes sense for the wave 1 availability deployment, so the March-April things. But the big worry I have is around things like this one here is May, for example. So that's not coming on any of these dates. It's coming on some other date that we don't know. We know it's in May, we don't know when. We don't know what regions it's already hit. We don't know if, for example, as a United Kingdom customer, we know that before it reaches us, it's been in all these places here. And they've had opportunities to raise, like you said, significant issues that will postpone the overall wave release. I really don't know how we manage these kind of May, June, July releases that sometimes, I'll be honest, you don't actually find out they've happened until they've happened.
So Stuart, where does the Canary scale group come into play here? Because that's the purpose. That's the first stage on the release train where you have 2 weeks to do your regression. And then if anything breaks, either you report to Microsoft. And as Dilip had said, if something happens, let's say they're out of bugs, then Microsoft will act on that. Isn't that the purpose of the being in Canary scale group?
Potentially, yeah, but not everyone's in that group. That's the thing.
The other thing we got to bear in mind, yes, Stuart, is obviously we're saying that those environments are going to get it first, so any issues should be raised. It depends if we're using functionality that they're not using, so therefore we'll be the first people to test it.
Yeah. The other thing as well is when you look at the amount of fully custom apps that we have these days as well, like, can't comment for everyone, but more often than not recently, we're not dealing with vanilla Dynamics 365 sales. We're dealing with a fully bespoke solution for an enterprise level customer that uses some of customer service or some of sales. So it's been heavily tested on the way Microsoft intend for the vanilla product to be used, but not necessarily on a large complex integration that might be different from what Microsoft have tested on with another however many customers. I mentioned that sometimes we're not finding out that stuff's happened until it's actually happened. For people who follow me on LinkedIn, you've probably seen me posting these over the last few months and things as well. One thing that's alarmed me with these, the features that are mentioned in here were all released in advance of this date. So with the release wave updates, you get a note, this is coming in 3 months, go switch it on, try it, etc. With these ones here, yeah, appreciate most of them are public previews you can toggle on and off and so on. But it really, really worries me that our friends at Microsoft are putting out on the 2nd of February, by the way, all these new things are here that could have broken your environment 3 days ago. That kind of scares me a bit as well. It's not all bad news. As we said, a lot of these are behind toggles and things like that you can try them out in your sandbox environments for the duration of the public preview, but it's something I'd like to see a bit more transparency on. We've got just over 10 minutes left. Is there anything anyone wants to bring to the table that hasn't been discussed so far? Any features you're excited about, any gotchas, any stuff you played with that isn't functioning as you thought? Anything at all, really? Or any questions?
I think there's this one feature that quite interests me is the plugins that developers write at the moment. It has got dependent assemblies, and at the moment it is a chaos for doing the IL merge and things like that. But now it's all great that we can have dependent assemblies directly onboarded. So it's all good, and looking forward to it, because I think with a complex enterprise implementation, you can have n number of plugins that will really be dependent on so many different activities and assemblies, and most of it is basically Newtons of JSON, which is absolutely used everywhere.
Yeah, I've been following this one over the last couple of months. I'll be honest, I'm not from a developer background. I'm more from a functional background. I will say that when I raised this with the developers that work with me, everyone was excited about
it. Okay.
They explained briefly what it means, and I'll be honest, a fair bit of it went over my head. But the way they explained it was, this will make our life 100 times easier, and we're all really excited about it. So if you are someone who uses plugins, definitely recommend pop into the experience.dynamics.com. Have a look in release plans. It should be in the pro dev section. I'll share again for a second, actually. Just highlight this. You probably noticed I didn't go too much into the pro development stuff. I'll be honest, it's not my area of expertise, so I struggle to get excited about it. But for these kind of things here, you do have pro development. Down here, you've got, I think it's coming soon, actually. In here somewhere.
It's a part of Dataverse, Microsoft Dataverse.
Yeah, it's not a pro dev one because it's a Microsoft Dataverse plugin, of course it is. Here we are, Dataverse extensibility. So that's going general availability next month. So if it is something that interests you, yeah, certainly recommend go in, add to my plan. The adding to my plan is really useful as well, because that means if Microsoft do, for example, we spoke about a feature that's been moved 3 or 4 times. If Microsoft move it regularly, you can, if you wanted, go into my release plans and you could do changed last 7 days, for example. Go into here periodically and say, okay, yep, they've changed that date. I thought they were going to, now they have. Let's be honest, they're not going to change the date 2 days before it happens. They're going to change it a few weeks before. They know it's not ready. They know they don't want to put it out. So useful to put that in. You've also got your nice little filters here that it's worth mentioning for these release planning activities. The kind of ones you want to watch out for as admins or makers automatically. So these are ones that aren't hidden behind a feature toggle that you want to be keeping an eye on, and as soon as they're available in public preview, start testing them in dev environments and QA environments and so on. Cool. Anything else anyone wants to bring to the table?
See, for the co-authoring for Canvas apps, whereabout did you say the link was for that? Is it in there at all?
It should be in. I've got it favorited, so if you give me 2 seconds, Matt.
Thank you.
I'll turn that off. So you should find that under Power Apps, under the Efficient Maker Experiences heading. And it's due on. Where has it gone? It's there a minute ago. No, it's not. It's under Fusion of Components, Composition and Collaboration. Bit of a mouthful. And it's titled Makers Can Work Together in the Same App and Custom Page. So it doesn't actually mention Canvas apps in the title. That's maybe where the confusion's been. This one here, though.
Thank you.
That's public preview any day now. Keep an eye out for these coming in the next few days as well. This one's the January one that was released on the 2nd of February. They tend to release the February one kind of towards the end of the month. It's a little bit confusing. The January one comes in February, February one comes in March, etc. But they should have more explanation in there. These are really nice as well. So they give you a short breakdown, but they also give you a link to the appropriate docs as well. It seems like the days of stuff being released with no documentation to explain how it works have kind of passed us for a while, which I'm quite glad about. It's worth keeping an eye out for these as well. They're available just on the Power Apps blog. Strongly recommend following this for any kind of updates and things that come out as well. Okay, well, that's everything from me. Any questions before we wrap up?
Can I ask a quick one about a feature comment? I'm not sure if you've actually spoken about this one or not, so sorry if you have. Power Pages and Power Portals, they're ugly and horrible, and we've got Bootstrap coming soon, the upgrade to Bootstrap. Do we have any idea what that's going to look like, or what we're going to be able to do as part of having a better UI, I guess, and a better...
Limited information at this stage. If I remember right, this is down for public preview in September.
Updated to June.
Oh, this isn't trying now, sorry, ignore me. Yes, June. Public preview 1st of June. The documentation's very, very limited at this point. I'll be honest, building Power Pages isn't really my thing, but the project I'm on at the moment does have a lot of Power Pages involved in it. In fact, it's heavily based on Power Pages. So I've been following this one to try and bring myself up to speed, but I'll be honest, I'm drawing a blank at this stage. It's too far away for them to put anything out on this. It's another one of these ones that I spoke to our devs and says, what does this mean? And they were like, yeah, it means it's going to look amazing. But that's about all I've got at the moment, if I'm honest, Matt.
Fair enough. Thank you.
I think there's a pretty useful feature in Power Automate, which at the moment, if you look at Power Automates and its execution, let's say if the Power Automates are executing for thousands of records, and if you really want to understand which record it did not really work on, you have to go through this Power Automate execution and look at this every now and then. So maybe you can just click on one record, one execution. So it really is very difficult for support team to look at the executions. Now, what they've probably planned to add in June 2023 is push Cloudflow execution data into application insights, which is absolutely brilliant for us to report on it and then find out what exactly is the problem. I've been speaking to Microsoft to get something for me, which they haven't really talked about. They said there's nothing at the moment with them, but this feature probably is the answer for that.
Yeah, I've seen various solutions to DIY jobs of pushing it into application insights, and I'll be honest, they're quite cumbersome to put in place. So having a native out of the box way of doing this, like you say, it's going to be really good. A little example, we've got a flow at the moment that we use for data retention that attempts to delete 1 million records. It usually manages about 980,000. It's very, 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 very difficult without the custom integration we've put in place with Azure to pinpoint which 20,000 they didn't delete and why. Being able to have, as we said, that native integration with application insights to get that reporting out there without any huge effort is going to be really, really useful for big enterprise solutions like what we've been building recently. Yeah, definitely want to watch out for action. I'm going to add that to my plan. It's a big one. Hopefully we do get some more information on this soon, but it's limited at this point. Even within the 5,000 page PDF that we get with the release overview, there's not much in here at all yet. But yeah, good call out that one there. But we're just about at time. I know we're all busy people, so just want to take an opportunity to say thank you everyone for coming along. This is probably the busiest and most engaged one of these we've had. We do have these 4 times a year, one round about this time, next one will be around about May, shortly after general availability of the release wave 1 content. And then we'll catch up again probably about August time for the same session again on release wave 2. So thanks again, folks. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or evening, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.